guys, it's Sheesta with Tutor Mom. I just wanted to stop in for a moment and actually just give another review of Fred. Now, as you guys know, I am a Life of Fred user, and that is particularly the Life of Fred math series. So I believe in the earlier or previous segment, I actually talked about the review of Life of Fred elementary series. Well, this time I'm doing the Life of Fred language arts series. Yes, language arts. Now, who would have thunk, right, that Life of Fred would spill over into grammar and literature? Well, he did. So Dr. Schmidt did it again. He is actually the author of the Life of Fred. He is also a college professor, so I really take him at his word on how to implement this series. Now, the series does not begin until high school, but I've heard of some parents doing it as early as 5th grade. I recommend just starting in 8th grade on up, and the way that he is presenting it is that you go through 3 books at a time, 3 books, and then what you begin to do is repeat those books in each grade level. Well, the books are set up just as Life of Fred math is, with the first book being Australia, Begin Teaching, and Classes. Now, my son and I started working in the Australia one when he was about 7th grade. I absolutely fell in love with it, but because I knew 9th grade was coming up, I put it aside after we were done and just left it there until his 9th grade year. So this is his 9th grade year. We repeated Australia as a review again. And let me tell you, you may think that repeating a lot of this, that the children would get bored. They do not get bored. At least my son did not get bored with Life of Fred language arts. Now, and I believe the reason why is that he enjoyed the storyline. Now, remember, Life of Fred, or Fred period, is this 5-year-old professor at Kitten's University. Well, when you get to Australia, he is still that, but he doesn't teach math. He teaches other things. And so because of that, because he doesn't teach, well, he doesn't teach English, he teaches math. And because of that, he visits Australia, he has these classes, and he begins to teach in the next book. So I want to give you a little excerpt on some of the things that you'll learn in each book. So in Australia, you're going to pick up things like, let's see here, and I'm going to grab my glasses for a second because it's hard for me to see without that. So in chapter 1, it shows the world, telling time, population of the earth, beginning a paragraph, indentation, ending a sentence, and it goes on to questions, when, who, how, why, and where. Letter writing, all right is not a word. PS for postscripts, or PS as picosecond. So you may think, you know what, that's really simple. But how many of us really need to review some things before we get off into those good things? I know that I do. And I know that I want my kids to review things before we hit some other things. That way you boost their confidence a little bit. So Australia may seem pretty easy. Like I said, that my son did this in 7th grade. But we are now in Begin Teaching. And I absolutely love it. So when he begins teaching, now if you follow along with the storyline, you know, start with book A, which is, what was it again, Australia. But what I love about this little guy in here is that he is just completely innocent. And when I say completely innocent, he really is, he thinks just like a 5-year-old would, but he's brilliant. And he doesn't really think he's brilliant in a sense, but he's teaching our children some really neat things in a storyline that they're going to take with them throughout their life. You're going to find more than just math. You're going to find more than just language arts. You're going to find geography. You're going to find so much that you can play on those and then make it into something else. So when you get to the Begin Teaching, you actually, let me get my glasses again. I can see with my glasses reading, but not without, so So I guess that would make them reading glasses. So in chapter 1 in the book Begin Teaching, it's meeting Mac, ellipses, litotes, how to love people, plurals of lowercase letters. Then we have in chapter 2, teachers quit. How to make someone cry by saying since, S-I-N-C-E. The whole point of English is measuring elapsed time from 8 to 5 p.m. Silent letters, airflow determines vowels, and it'll go on and on. Now, one of the stories that I am really, that I shared with my daughter the other day is that Fred, in this particular book, there was one story that I just completely loved. And here he was, this little 5-year-old. And if you go back to book 1, Australia, you'll follow that storyline. So I'm not going to go through all of book 1. But he's this little 5-year-old, and all of a sudden, he kind of like, you know, is trying to figure out what he needs to do as far as staying in Australia. So what did he do? He went over into a bookstore that was closed. And he didn't know that that was breaking in. So the police officer's like, hey, little boy, what are you doing? Well, he's, you know, innocent. He's not doing anything but trying to figure out how to, you know, teach this class. And he doesn't know anything about grammar. Well, what I like is that Fred and this police officer are like riding down the street. Now, the police officer has him in custody, so to speak. But he's going down the street, and Fred, being Fred, just starts out singing blah, 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 and doing all these rhythmic tones. Well, the police officer, being as nice as he is, said, you know what, I'm going to finish that. So it's like, I teach is the name of the song. So you go, I teach tomorrow English classes here. For 8 to 5, I make it come alive, and all this kind of stuff. Well, because the police officer don't believe this little guy is a kittens professor, professor at Kittens University, he decides, you know, I'm going to play along with him. And this song is called I Don't Believe. And so it says, if what you say and sing is really true, the sea is pink, and my name is Donald Duck. Now, you would think most kids would be like, that doesn't rhyme. As a matter of fact, my daughter's like, Donald Duck? But what is going on is that Fred is actually teaching you about poetry. He's saying that everything that you are singing and have a rhythm to, that is poetry. And he goes on to say that the words written in a song are called lyrics. Now, how many of us kind of learned that in school as far as in our literature class? I didn't. So he goes into this little poem, and it says, poems do not have to rhyme. It has a rhythm, a meter. It is not just a bunch of words on a line. And then so they show you that breaking up this tune, if what you say and sing is really true. So every line of this poem can be broken into pairs. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. The sea is pink. My name is Donald Duck. Now, you may think, where is she going with all of this right now? She seems a little bit excited, but I get excited when it's education and it's fun. So what they begin to explain is that every pair is an iambic meter, or every pair is an iambic foot. Now, hold on, let's wait for a second, right? Well, I didn't learn anything about iambic, anything in school. Nothing. So this was new to me, and I'm learning along with my son. Now, my son, of course, wasn't as excited as I am right now when I was, right now, or even when I was teaching it, but I couldn't help it. I've learned something new from this little 5-year-old. So I'm like, in an iambic foot, and then it says an iambic foot, da-dum, is a quiet followed by a loud. So when you say da-dum, where's the stress at? Da-dum. That's the stress. Da-dum. So as you go through this particular lesson, it teaches you about all the measurements of a poem and how to measure that out. So then you talk about, you have an iambic pentameter, and then a pentagon is 5 sides. So he threw some math in there, of course. And then you go through all the others, a diameter. Let's see what we have, a trimeter. Now, if I'm saying it wrong, you can comment if you want, but I'm just going along. So, a trochaic, anapestic, ditalic, hexameter. Now, I did not learn in my literature class in high school anything like this. This is why Fred works, because he put it in a way that is engaging to the reader, that is engaging to your children. And if you just jump in and be engaging with it, you have now done more good for your children than any system has. Now, what I want to share with you is that this book is 19 chapters, just like all the others, and we have a tendency to think that that is not enough. What about all the other things? I'm telling you, one thing that I say is that quantity doesn't mean quality. It does not at all. You can give your children worksheets all day long, and guess what? They're not going to remember that when they grow up or when they get out on their own. They're going to remember the things that count. And I am a definite follower of Fred. I love his book. I like that the chapters are not so long. First of all, because I would get easily bored. Second of all, children now, especially nowadays, to sit at a table or however you school all day long reading loads and loads of things, they need something engaging, something that'll lift their spirits, but yet sneak in the educational part. So we have Begin Teaching classes in Australia. The reason why I have not said anything about classes because we're not in that book yet, but what I read a couple of days ago out of this particular book, Begin Teaching, I absolutely loved it and could not wait to share it with you guys. So please, please, please. Also, if you want to go and look at some books, I mean, look for someone that has them and borrow them. If they don't, libraries are now carrying Life of Fred on the shelves. If they do not have it, you can request it. And that way you don't have to spend money. But $19 a book? Yeah, that's a thumbs up for me. So grab it, see how you like it, read it first, play around with it. And thank you so, so very much for tuning in. Life of Fred is great. 5 thumbs up, of course. And don't forget to LCS. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.